the time, that was the defining moment in my career. I learned from my email afterwards that timing was key.
How did that make you feel? Did it feel like all the stars were aligning?
That's when I was like, right, I need to go out of my way to put myself on his radar, because I'm not just going to appear there from no reason. What I never considered as a kid dreaming of this moment is how it's going to make the people I work with feel. Like I was on course to win the race, and then suddenly there was a safety car. I was on old tyres, Lewis was behind me on new tyres. I'm thinking, give me a break kind of thing.
George, obviously you've been exposed to what the team are trying to pull off here in Barcelona. If they do pull it off in late summer, early autumn, it will be a great feat. Of course it will. It'll be a special moment for them.
Absolutely.
So the purpose of this pod, we're calling it a moment in time. And I want to ask you what your version of that is.
That's a very good
question.
question.
So far. I'm going to say so far because the
Absolutely.
story isn't written totally yet.
Absolutely. I think I've had similar questions before, and there are many moments that stand out, but I think, and the significance of them at the time, they've always been on a similar level. When I raced in go-karting at the age of 12 years old, at a national level, that didn't make me a Formula One driver today, but at the time, that was so important to me. And when I look back now, that championship win at the age of 12 propelled me to the next step in my career. And then when I raced in race cars and I raced in Formula 4, I won the British Formula 4 championship. It's not a Formula 1 race, it's not a Formula 1 podium or championship, but at the time, that was the defining moment in my career, because that propelled me to the next step, which put me on the radar of Toto and Mercedes, and I signed for Mercedes the following year. So I think we'd always jump to the obvious ones that have the most media attention, winning my first race in Formula 1, but that probably wasn't the defining moment for me, because it was the moments before, the steps before on that journey, which allowed me that opportunity in F1. So
I think that's really true. I think like you say, the glamour moments are the ones that, people expect you to talk about. But actually, when you track back and you think about, getting on the radar as opposed to, what Mercedes and Toto are looking for at the time or whatever else, and the journey that took you there, that is key.
I think probably the most defining was when I was 16 years old. In the UK, we have a very prestigious award at the end of every year. There's 6 drivers chosen to go for a shootout. At the time, it was called the McLaren Autosport BIDC Award.
Yeah.
They call it the Young Driver of the Year Award, and we get the opportunity to test in a Formula 2 car, in like a touring car, a German touring car, which was a Mercedes Benz at the time, and then another race car. And winning that award for any young driver was huge. There was £100,000 prize money that came with it. I was only 16 years old, and I actually had to change the rules to allow me just to compete in this award at the end of the year and get the opportunity. And I managed to win this award, and that felt like a bit of a turning point in my career, because it was the end of the same season where I won the Formula 4 championship. I won this award at the end of the year. I saw Toto. Toto was there at the award ceremony where I collected this award and found out that I'd won the shootout. So that was probably quite a key moment. But as I said, I think we're all on this journey. We're climbing this ladder, and every single step leads you to the top. And it depends where you want to define that limit.
Did you make different decisions, though? Did you create a different pathway based on what happened with winning that award? Was there, because there may have been a moment which made you think, okay, well, I've achieved that, and I'm going to make these sets of decisions off the back of that. I mean, you could have gone, it could be like a sliding doors moment where you could have gone either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest decision I made after that was emailing Toto.
There we
and
go.
Saying, I'd really love to meet you and have a meeting, discuss about the future. And I learned from my email afterwards that timing was key. I didn't even realize this when I sent the email, but I sent it on the Wednesday after the final race of the season. So, Toto just won the championship, first championship win with Mercedes. He was on a high. Season's now, cooling off. And, that email, when it popped into the inbox, he saw it. Where if I sent it maybe 1 week earlier, the Wednesday before the final race of the season, he'd be having hundreds of emails coming into his inbox, and maybe it would have just been lost amongst all of them. So, I got a response within 20 minutes from Toto when I sent this email, and a meeting was set for a month later, which I just could not believe.
So what did that make you feel? I mean, you get, like you say, you ping off that email, and it's probably taken you a moment or two to construct it, I'd imagine, to get it absolutely right. And
I thought that's easier than I expected.
I want to know exactly what it said. But off the back of that, how did that make you feel? Did it feel like all the stars were aligning?
It made me feel that you have to, take control of your own destiny. I think prior to that moment, I almost felt like things should be coming towards me. I was winning races. I was winning championships. Why aren't the likes of Toto picking up the phone and calling me? Now I'm a Formula One driver, and I know what an F1 season entails. I know why Toto isn't picking the phone up to, a 15-year-old kid racing in go-karting and Formula 4, because, it's so consumed with everything. And I think that's when I was like, right, I need to go out of my way to put myself on his radar, because I'm not just going to appear there from no reason. And that was a really key moment. And we only ended up signing about a year and a half later, after another season of racing in Formula 3, which went really well. So it was, as I said, those two moments were probably pivotal in my career.
Can I then fast forward to 2022 into Brazil?
Yeah.
And that first win with Mercedes. What did that feel like? Because you got very tearful afterwards.
Yeah,
it would have been, I'm
did.
presuming it was a hugely emotional moment. What were those emotions all to do with?
Hello, performance people, listeners. My name is Freddie Carr, and I host a podcast called the Inside Tack, which is a podcast that follows the British America's Cup team, Ineos Britannia, as we get ready for the 37th America's Cup down here in Barcelona. We also follow the youth and the first ever Women's America's Cup. We would love you to like and subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on all your social media channels as we get ready for our sporting challenge of a lifetime.
I think, to be honest, when you dream of this as a kid, you think, how am I going to feel when I win my first F1 race? What I never considered as a kid dreaming of this moment is how it's going to make the people I work with feel. Seeing grown adults crying with emotion after the race.
Of which you were one.
Of which I was one. Sort of really, it went a long way with me, because, it's a team sport. We're on this journey together. I FaceTime my whole family before the podium when we was in the waiting room. Just the group chat, just click call, and I think my girlfriend was with my mother, my father was with my brother, and my sister with her husband. So that was like a really special moment, because they've all supported me my whole journey. My parents financially when I started go-karting, and the sacrifice in their own time that they gave me. And my father was working flat out Monday to Friday, 7 till 7 every day. I never saw him, but that was because it was to give me the opportunity to race at the weekends. And when you're an 8-year-old to probably 14, you don't recognize those sacrifices your parents put in. And then even the support I had from my sister and my brother who supported me, I think they could easily say, why are my parents every weekend with me going racing? Why aren't they given the same, I wouldn't say support, but, they didn't have their activities.
Man hours.
Exactly. But we were all invested in this dream of ours, and we're here today because of all of that support. Every single race we go to.
So just tell me what it was like inside your helmet, inside your mind on that final in-lap.
Yeah.
Like, what were the things going through your mind? What was worrying? When did the tears start to flow?
I think it was when I jumped out the car, and it was a very stressful final 10 laps because I had the race very under control. I think I had about a 10-second lead for the majority of the race. After about 20 laps to about 50 laps into the race, I had a solid gap and things were looking like I was on course to win the race. And then suddenly there was a safety car. I was on old tyres. Lewis was behind me on new tyres. I'm thinking, give me a break kind of thing.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, exactly. And, he stayed behind me 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds for the remaining sort of 8 laps of the race, I think it was. So that sort of high intensity, high pressure, high stakes were on the line. It was the first victory of the season for us as a team, my first victory altogether. So I think it was a lot of relief when I crossed the line because I knew I could always achieve it. And I knew that was a tough season for us as with Mercedes, but I always knew I was going to win a race. I was just sort of glad to tick that box and continue thereafter.
You talked earlier about the team and sort of, having to lead the charge for the team, being out there on the racetrack as the driver. It's much like what the guys are doing on the boat, isn't it? You see plenty of synergies, plenty of cross-contamination between the worlds of Formula 1 and America's Cup racing.
Oh, absolutely. It's the highest level of engineering precision is needed, and that teamwork. Obviously, when the guys are out there on the boat and having to communicate, work together, take into consideration the surroundings and the environment, there's probably obviously more changes they're going through than what we go through during a race. And they're out there alone. We've got our team in our ear talking, sometimes too much, but giving us information about how the race is looking, what other drivers' lap times are, the gaps when we need to pit. But obviously, if those guys, once they're out on the water, they're alone. So so much respect for them, and it's so impressive seeing the boat for the first time. And I've been fortunate enough to see so many people working back at Brackley, developing the boat, designing that, and just talking about it. And the guys who have been working in Formula 1 in the past, who have now suddenly got into the America's Cup business, they've been really enjoying how working with the aerodynamics of the boat, but how it integrates with the water and all of the different factors at play.
What do you make also the fact that when you think about a Formula 1 season, I mean, it feels like one always rolls into the next and there's very little downtime, and you're always working on, when you're in the season, the next race, the next car, whatever it might be. With the Cup world, it's sort of like an Olympic campaign, isn't it? It's like a massive project. Everyone has to be in for the long haul. And that could be a 3 or 4 year stint, of which it has been this time round. And it all comes down to those final moments.
It does.
And the pressure of that, can you relate to that, the understanding of that everything's coming down to these one
absolutely.
moment?
I think, in the world of Formula 1, we are lucky that we have 24 races a year because there's always another opportunity. Whereas when I look at Olympians or when I look at the America's Cup, it is a number of years of preparation for that one event. And that must, as you said, it's a huge amount of pressure on their shoulders. But I feel when you prepare to your maximum, that always reduces the pressure. I feel the pressure more when I feel like I've left something on the table and there was more work I could have done. But pressure's always going to be there. You're always going to feel those butterflies and those nerves before an event. But you got to try and turn that into good energy, and knowing that all of your competitors are going to be feeling the same, puts you at ease, and knowing, you know what, I'm going out here to do what I do best, and we're gonna smash it.
Final thing, message for the team.
Yeah,
what would it be?
Well, I think, like I just said, do what you do best. You've all been preparing for this. Enjoy it, because I think you have to enjoy the journey, and actually sometimes when you enjoy it, it brings more performance towards the cause, and go for it.
Thanks, George.
Thanks so much.
Join us for the Performance People podcast every week for the highs, lows, lessons and stories from people like this lot. Michael Johnson.
Some days what I would see is a person who is a shell of what I used to be.
Eddie Hearn.
We don't operate in a business that's dangerous, but we just operate in one where you've got to sleep with one eye open.
Mo Farah.
It couldn't get any harder than what I've gone through, and at that point I just went for it.
Paula Radcliffe.
You can only control yourself.
Susie Wolf.
And Toto did once liken me to a donkey.
Every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts.